Okay, this is just going to be a test for how much watt hours it takes to use an induction cooktop to heat up some meal. And I am going to use this stew straight out of the refrigerator. I just tested the temperature and it is at 36 degrees. It's been sitting here for a few minutes and I'm going to heat that up to a good temperature for eating. I've got two pans I could use. This one is 1,250 grams, but it's fairly thick. It'll have good heat conduction. And the other option is this one, which has a 5-inch bottom. It's only 600 grams. And the hot spot on this is 5 inches. So I'm going to use this one. It'll have decent heat conduction and I won't waste energy heating up the pan. And yet it's still a thick-walled steel that will conduct heat from the bottom up through the sides and speed up the heating. Hey folks, there aren't all that many people doing tests with decent data for car camping and electric cooking while you're camping. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe and like the video. It'd be a big help. Thanks. Okay, another good pan that I use is this wok. It's only a 12-inch wok. See how thin gauge it is? But this thing heats that up as long as I'm stirring it, so I get transfer from the steel directly into the stew, and it immediately gets new stew to warm up. Then I get good heat transfer, and I don't waste any energy heating up the pan really because it's very thin gauge. But that relies on stirring constantly so that you don't have hot spots, a hot layer, boundary layer of stew. You got to stir it all around to transfer heat out of this thin metal. When I make meals, things like this, very often I'll take stew and I'll cut it into chunks after it's been frozen and freeze them up. This is Scotch broth. It's quite a bit old. It's actually from 2022 and September of 22. So I should melt that up. But what I've got here is some stew. And if we had this in a DC refrigerator in a camper, what I do is I take this and I'll put it frozen into my DC refrigerator, and then over the course of the camper it'll thaw out and be around 33, 32, just right at the edge of freezing. So the amount of energy we need to heat this stuff up is usually from about 32, maybe just slightly frozen. And a comfortable temperature to eat is 140 degrees, but I'll go up to 160. And I'll just do that because 160 for 1 second is the USDA instantaneous pathogen lethality level. So everything's cooked and safe at that point. Okay, here's what we got. This is a kind of a medium chili beef stew. You can see how thick it is. Most food can be approximated by heating water. And we'll see how different this actually is just heating a stew. All right, there's our kilowatt meter. It's been reset. Let's go on here at the menu, go up to full power, and start heating it. I'm gonna leave the cover off because I'll stir it. That's gonna provide better heat transfer than keeping the lid on by stirring it. Okay, it's been less than a minute. You can already see it's starting to get a few little bubbles from the bottom right there. All right, I think that's it. Yep, I'm up to 170 right now. Let's turn it off. Let's check the time. It's only 2 minutes of cooking. 55 to 57. So 2 minutes of cooking. It's off right now. Stir it. I'm up to like 180, 182. So overshot the temperature that I was going for, and that's way hotter than you would eat it. Most people are comfortable eating around 140. All right, let's see what I've got. 66 watt hours is what that took. Okay, and you can see I kind of spilled while I was stirring. This is one of the nice things about this induction. Look how easy this is. Just glass, quick cleanup. Boom, done. It's not hot, just that center portion, and that's just transfer from the pan. Easy cleanup. Okay, you can see that's a pretty good amount of soup or stew for one person. And 66 watt hours. I think if I just stopped it at the correct heat, it would have been 60 watt hours. Heating up a larger volume of this is a linear, so if I did twice as much for 2 people, it'd be 120 watt hours. I just tested it, it's 170 degrees, and I can actually eat it like that. And it's, I gotta give it a little bit of a blow and be quick with my moving it around in my mouth so it doesn't burn. But that's about the hottest that somebody could eat it. So that's actually a reasonable temperature. So I think these are reasonable numbers. It's about as hot as anybody could ever eat it. And most people would let it cool off a little bit, but it's definitely well past the point where any pathogens have been instantly killed. I mentioned that most food cooking can be approximated by what it takes to heat up water. And the calculation in watt hours for heating 500 milliliters of water from 39 Fahrenheit to 180 degrees Fahrenheit, which is what we did for the stew, is 45.5 watt hours. The actual we used was 66 watt hours, which means this process, including heat loss and the amount of energy it took to actually heat the pan up, was 69% efficient. That's just something that'll be of interest to people who are doing truck camping or car camping and using electricity for their cooking. Later on, we'll do the same calculations with an electric kettle and also a small microwave to see which one you might want to use depending on what you're cooking.